Welcome, everybody, to tonight's show. Of course, we had a little technical snafu. It always happens. It always happens. It's live. That's what makes it exciting. Michelle, you're waiting for us already. I love it. So tonight, we have a very, very special guest. Very special guest, Michael Kline, who is an expert on success and emotions, a six-time successful entrepreneur by himself. Michael is also the 11th of 12 children, born into poverty to an alcoholic father, living in a junkyard. I shouldn't make it sound enthusiastic, but sorry, that's just me. But he lost his mother at age 7 and discovered powerful lessons about love and life and all the potential that we have within ourselves. So he's a certified Jack Canfield trainer, transformational trainer, a master certified RIM facilitator, licensed RIM trainer, success coach. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. I'm just going to stop, let him talk because he's the best at it. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Hey, I am fantastic. Very happy to be here, especially overcoming my technical difficulties.
Yeah.
And I love blaming technology for my inability to handle technology.
It's all about technology. Yeah, it's all I'll hit you up right away. We have Michelle that's come on and said, Canfield methodology certified. Yeah. She wants to know more about that. So we're going to get to that in a second. And if you have comments along the way, feel free to put them in the comment section there, and I can put them up there just like I did with Michelle's. Cool. Let's start at the beginning. 12 siblings.
Yeah.
How big was that house? How many bathrooms did you have?
We had a 7-bedroom house with twice the bathrooms any family really needs, because our bathroom, our outhouse, was a 2-seater, which is twice the bathrooms any family really needs if you think about it. So yeah, we didn't have an indoor bathroom. And so if you picture, I should have brought you pictures. So if you imagine a typical Cape Cod style house, a small Cape house, we had a living room, a kitchen, and a bedroom in the basement. And the main floor, typical Cape, has 4 rooms, so those were bedrooms. And then the attic, that half floor, was 2 more bedrooms. So technically, that's a 7-bedroom house. So yeah, cozy.
Wow. Cozy. So what? I should ask this. Can you name them all?
My brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
I can name them in order, but not only from top to bottom, and not in the other direction. That would trip me up. And
yeah. Wow. I've only saw that on was it Stephen Colbert?
Yeah. I could pretend I'm really good at memorizing names, when you go around the room and repeat everyone's names. Yeah. So I love having all these siblings, and we've only been reconnected since 2007. After my mother's death, 4 of us were raised by an aunt and uncle, and so it was 37 years later that we had our first family reunion and were able to reconnect. And that was, I'm not going to go talking about that right off because I'll be diving deep in emotions. You'll have me crying, and we're not going to. But it was that was really, really special.
Wow.
And, yeah. Wow. So this emotion that is starting at the beginning on all of this. Actually, it goes to the Canfield work started there, and I didn't mean for it to. The RIM work started there, and I didn't mean for it to. And it all very much ties together, and very much ties to my why. And that was quite an accident as well. I never thought I would do this sort of work. I wasn't looking to do this. It found me, and I'm thankful that it did.
And so you were the president of a franchise. You went through, you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, as they say, and then you were the president of a franchise.
Yeah, actually, I had worked my way in the travel business. I had become a travel agent and a manager of a travel agency, and then went to work for the franchisor in that business and became their director of training and development, and then eventually president of this company with 35 locations throughout New England. And that also took me to Boston, which was a good move, where I wanted to be anyway at that time. So that work, what I found I loved about it was helping franchisees, small business owners, connect to their why. And we found that they became very successful in their business when it meant something to them, something more than paying more royalties, which is what oftentimes a franchisor wants the franchisee to be excited about. They're just not. But when we really got them to connect to their why and really helped them, it really helped them turn their business around and make it make sense and to make money. And I love the classroom time. I love the training development work, and I love the coaching work. And when we left that business, we went and started a restaurant. And then we went and started several retail stores and got involved in a lot of different things, moved up to the mountains of northern New Hampshire and really fell in love with a great little ski town there of North Conway, and loved being a part of the community and getting involved in community events, and got very tired of the cold. Go figure.
I'm in Wisconsin, yeah. So I know what that is.
Yeah, we know what that's like. So it's why I'm in Florida now. And so, so we had 3 businesses, and and they were going well enough to pay all the bills and to buy us a house in Florida in New Smyrna Beach for the winters. So not having to be at the stores, and I could stay home and have people send us checks. That was the dream life. I mean, my life looked like candy. So we get to the beach for 5 months out of the year. And I think it was the second year of walking the beach, I finally realized that I can answer that age-old question. Well, how many times can you walk the beach anyway? So be careful what you wish for.
That's a good question to have to answer.
It is. And so now I know the answer. 3, I was walking, I would go for 3 one-hour walks a day. And the good news is I dropped 40 pounds that I had been working on for decades, and finally did that. And the bad news is I also lost my mind. I just can't. My only hobby is walking every day. You know, in the summers, my walking was much more fun. If you do a day hike in the mountains, I could do that every day. But walking, that wasn't doing it for 5 months of my life. So when I started looking at what am I missing? And I realized that what I missed about work, the last time I really loved work, was the work I was doing with franchisees, and the one-on-one coaching with the business owners and helping them get excited about their lives and their work, and tying it to their families, tying it to their why, and being in the classroom. So I started my seminar business and home, and here we are.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So was that, and tell us about that first. So the main part to that whole, which I love part of your story, is once you learn the method or the system of starting a business and growing it and making it profitable, you can basically repeat that process.
Right. Because I grew up in the franchising business, the only way I knew how to start a business was to create systems that run the business and hire people to run the systems. This is kind of E-Myth 101. So I love that, and it's interesting when you're starting it. And for me, it wasn't my passion work. So once we got a store open, 3 months later, I'd be bored with it. And we do that again, keep it interesting, and then I'd be bored with it again. And I realized that it's nothing to do with, it wasn't my life purpose. There was no meaning to it. There's no passion for it. And I thought that it had just been my lot in life to live the way I'm living better than I ever thought I would or was expected of me, that I could pay my bills and pay off the mortgage and live happily ever after and walk on the beach. And what else could you possibly want? I would feel guilty for not being happier with that. And what's the point of all of that if it doesn't do anything for you, if it doesn't mean anything? And it just didn't for me. But the seminar work thrilled me, except secretly I had an insecurity about my lack of formal training as a trainer. And I had a friend, you probably know Trish Jacobson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she's in Jack's latest Success Principles book, and she's well known in the Canfield circles because she's been on the assisting team for years.
Yeah.
And so she lived in the same town I did in New Hampshire, and we had been friends since before she started with all this Canfield work. So I had gotten immune to her telling me Jack this and Jack that, but she would come home, she would come by and practice some of her new skills from Train the Trainer on me. And she suddenly said to me one day, she said, "You'd really like the Train the Trainer program." And that really just hit me just right, that, wow, I've never been trained as a trainer. I learned from my predecessor. I did it the way my boss did it. And it seemed to work better than most. So I didn't know what I didn't know, but I suspected that there was plenty. And there was. And so,
then you saw Jack.
Yeah, that got me to Train the Trainer. I had never read a chicken soup book. I know nothing from chicken soup. I never watched The Secret, but I showed up just looking for this left brain intellectual content for business.
Right.
You see where this is going. Until that time, I had never really survived a guided meditation without getting lost or arguing with it halfway through the story. I would get lost and think, well, this doesn't make sense and this isn't working for me and I don't do visualization. So
start making your grocery list. You start
anything. Yeah. More like correcting it and saying, well, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
I could do this better. So he introduced us to the Tree of Life meditation. And during that meditation, I was really getting it. I was feeling it. So afterward, when he asked for anyone that would be willing to share, you know how that is. After the meditation, we'll do a round of sharing. But this was early on, so we hadn't gotten into big personal work so much yet. But I had promised that I was going to sit down front. I was going to play full out. I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to jump in and do it. That's why we paid the big bucks for this. I'm going to use it. So I raised my hand, and I'm there. Pick me. And he does. And so I stand up, and they bring me a microphone, and I share that this was terrific. I love this whole thing. I got to the center of the earth. I imagined I'm in the river. I saw the Tree of Life in living color. It was fantastic. Like Jack needed some affirmation, I guess, right?
Right.
Man, except at the very end, there's one part that didn't really work for me, and that was where we had this Mother Earth image, and we were to have a conversation with her. And I never got the image of the Mother Earth figure, and maybe it didn't matter because what she was saying felt like a lie. This, I'm always here for you. So anyway, that was my experience. Thank you very much. And so now he's been told what he needs to work on. And so I hand my microphone back and sit down, and he says, no, stay standing. And I said, no, I'm good. And he says, no, stay standing. So they bring the microphone back, and he comes down, and I realize now that I'm going to be that guy. Right? About to get processed in front of my new 100 closest friends. And process me he did. So he comes to me, and he says, so close your eyes. And he has me sense what's going on in my body, what I'm noticing. And it's like, well, I got this knot in my shoulder, but I always have a knot in my shoulder. And what color is it? And I says, it's a knot in my shoulder. It doesn't have a color. And even though I was resistant to the work, he used what we call rim light. We use these rim-like skills. And a minute later, he had me looking out of my own 7-year-old eyes as my 7-year-old self. And immediately I'm in the moment where one of my older brothers who is looking after me while our mother was in the hospital, and I'm in his living room. And my brother has just said to me, our mother has just died. You have to be a grown-up now, and don't cry. As a 7-year-old, the last thing I want to do is be a grown-up, whatever that means.
Right.
And the one thing I do want to do is cry. And I'm alone, I'm scared, I'm confused, and that, in retrospect, is easy to tie to not seeing the Mother Earth figure in the meditation. It's easy to not believe her line that I'm always here for you, you can always come to me. However, I wasn't looking for therapy. I wasn't looking for counseling. I wasn't looking for coaching. And mind you, my life up until that point looked like candy. I had gotten over this 40-something-year-old trauma from my childhood, or so I thought. And what was hidden there that wasn't, nothing was painful to call my attention to needing to work on it, and yet what was hidden was my own beliefs about how the world worked and what was safe and what wasn't, and my role in it. And I realized in that work how much I had been holding back. And I realized that by the end of that week, that there were probably half of the people in the room were the sort of people that I would never connect with, that I would not go have lunch with or start a conversation with. But having done this new work, where now we redid it, and I have a new emotional memory that's just as valid to my unconscious as the original event, I have a different, more supportive, more loving experience and a different way of feeling about me. And so now I'm not 50-something years old walking through life like a 7th grader in the lunchroom looking for where it's safe to sit.
Right.
Because I felt completely self-confident and successful. And I still realized that half the people in the world, for no clear reason, I was avoiding, or I would not go play with that group. I didn't belong with them. Right. And that was a big, big difference. So I had to learn what this was and what this magic stuff is and how to use this for my own clients. So I met Dr. Dave Stelma that day, the creator of the RIM method, and signed up for the RIM basic training, as it was called back then. And I've been studying and working with her ever since, and now getting to teach it. And it found me. I really wanted, I chose to take the basic training, and I never thought I would go on to certification or master's or to be a trainer, but every step of the way, it just kept calling me.
It just pulls you.
I can't believe I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just couldn't stop. So here we are. Yeah.
I gotta get caught up on some of these comments here. Amy says, I'm shocked by how much I resonate with what you're saying. My background is different details, of course, but yeah. And then
thanks, Amy.
Michelle, there she is. I instantly fell in love with the Tree of Life meditation. Yeah.
Yeah, I fell in love with Michelle that week too. Yeah. That's where we met. Yeah.
Yeah. And Amy gives you hearts too. I got to get caught up on all those. But love the comments. Keep them coming. If you have questions for Michael, you can ask those too. So you started doing. So did you combine the two right away? Doing Jack's methodology and then doing.
Yeah,
how did that evolve then?
Normal sane people would think it would make sense to not take everything you're ever going to learn at the same time. And I asked Dr. Deb about that. I said, should I finish the Canfield training? This is a lot of training. It was 3 weeks of live training at the time, spread over 9 or 10 months. And hers was 2 weeks of training then. And she said, actually, this would really be helpful for you to do the RIM training adjacent to the Canfield training. So you go come a week early, do the RIM training, go into the Canfield training. And so I did that. I thought she was just a really slick saleswoman. And turns out she's anything but. And it was the most amazing difference to go through that training at the same time. It just fit like this. And the RIM work prepared me to go into week 2 of Train the Trainer, a completely different person, open to that learning in a completely different way, looking through totally different eyes. So it wasn't like there was this big new complex learning that has to be, it was this big growth that I was doing going into it and being able to share that. So that was the smartest thing I ever could have done, actually.
Yeah. And I'm chuckling about Deb because it's so true. If you thought that she was like this big salesperson, it's like she's anything but that. She is just like this cute little thing you just want to go over and hug.
Yeah.
And she's just such,
And you know when if it's right for you, she knows it and you know it.
Yeah.
And she's so magnetic, so she attracts the people that it's right for, and she doesn't have to, you don't sell RIM anyway. Now as a trainer, I know that when it's right, we invite people to experience it and learn about it, and it seems to me it's always a part of your personal journey.
Yeah.
So it isn't someone comes to class, I need my ICF continuing ed credits or my therapy continuing ed credits, so I'm going to sign up and sit in the back of the room. It's not that kind of experience. So it has to resonate and just be right for you. And
yeah, it's an experience. Oh, here we go. Here they coming in. Well, first off, I don't know if you saw this before, but Michelle sends you virtual hugs.
I got that, Michelle.
Which is typical. That's like every 5 minutes, isn't it? Among the trainer crowd, we're just like, yeah. Here we go. So Amy wants to know, what is RIM?
Thank you for asking that, Amy. Usually, I have to remind myself to not speak in acronyms. So RIM stands for Regenerating Images in Memory, and it is a closed eye verbal mind-body technique, so that we use the whole brain. So rather than talking about something like we might do in most coaching methods, are relatively intellectually based. They're very much in our left brain, and we ask questions. And so we think about the question. In RIM, we engage both hemispheres of the brain. It's much more combining the intellect with the power of imagination, so that what pops up like that often surprises the client. And I know when I have been the client many times, that what comes up and what comes to mind is never the time or the place or the imagery that I would have ever thought of in a million years. So we end up going deeper by trusting that the unconscious knows what needs to be dealt with, as opposed to dealing with what we think our issue is. So that we end up coaching the source rather than the symptom.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever is presenting, if we say what's presenting is I'm suddenly a procrastinator at work, can you help me with that? Well, that's a great coaching topic. Or I want to work on time management or whatever the issue is. And my answer to everything is, so close your eyes. And when we go into this place where you are very much in control and very awake, it's not like you're hypnotized, it's quite the opposite of that actually, but where we invite the full power of the whole brain, what shows up is the real source of what's creating the challenge, what's beneath the surface that's much deeper, that is contributing to the procrastinating or to the time management or to the lack of self-care or to the whatever's blocking whatever's there. And it doesn't always seem linear, because it isn't. And in the end, we see the instant connection. And then the client, their problem is solved. And oftentimes I don't even know why or how it's connected. So sometimes we call it magic, as the technical jargon goes. And originally RIM did stand for releasing the inner magician, which I really like a lot. I was resistant to that a few years ago, and now I buy it. I get it. It's too magical not to address that.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And you go around and you do workshops, seminars, you do private coaching. I mean, you have all different facets that you do with RIM and with success principles, or your take on the success principles and that too. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I call them my children, my 3 areas of work, because for years, very smart marketing geniuses have been saying you really need to pick one and do it. You need to be clear about who you are and what you do, and really know your niche and all of that. And I said, I have 3 children. I love them equally, and they are the success principles. I love teaching them and coaching them. I love teaching and facilitating Circle, and I love facilitating and teaching RIM. And so my favorite program to do is to teach success principles in Circle and using RIM to process the stuck points and the head work that shows up every day.
I'm not acquainted with the Circle, so tell me about that.
Circle is, well, imagine more in a tribal council kind of way. We're going to gather in a circle around a fire. We're going to pass a talking piece. And so we translate that into settings that could work in corporate settings or community settings where people can be heard and be respected and learn to listen. It's really how I learned to listen.
Yeah.
It's my one of my circle training partners doesn't call it a talking piece. For me, for extroverts, he calls it the listening piece. Because when someone else has it, it's your gift of listening, and it is a gift.
Yep.
Yeah. So I often blend the work, but honestly, most of my time now is spent working with teaching RIM. So I might do, a dozen private RIM sessions every week, usually by phone or by Skype. So I work with people literally all around the world, and working on introducing the modality to coaches and therapists, and working on those classes. I think we have 5 on the calendar right now. So I have a lot of travel coming up, and for the first time offering RIM more than just on the West Coast. So now we're doing it in Boston and Florida and Texas, and for the first time out of the U.S., outside the U.S., we'll be in August. We will be in Copenhagen.
Oh, wow!
And Lotte Westerly, a lot of people know from the RIM community and from the Canfield community. She's a Canfield trainer and an amazing coach, and is a RIM master, and is now a new RIM trainer. So she and I will be doing a class together in Copenhagen in August. So that we're really, really excited about that.
And I'll put the website. There's the www dot.
No W's.
Oh, not on that one? Okay.
Just oh, hang on now. I didn't see that. Yeah, that's my main website. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's the main one. Yeah. So they can, if when in doubt, they can get you there, and then they can trail along.
Yeah.
Now, what with INTUS, is that how you pronounce it? Yeah. Okay. Is that an acronym?
It is not.
Okay, explain what that's all about.
I have Catholic friends who say, and I was raised Catholic, I have other Catholic friends who say that I should know better. It's intus, because it's Latin. It's Latin for within.
Oh!
Because, for obvious reasons, we go within to find the answers. And individually and organizationally, there is so much wisdom in group work that is not harvested, that's not being benefited from. So we help organizations or groups go within to find the answers, and we help individuals go within for the self-healing and to find the answers.
And I think this was the one that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So for folks like Amy, who just asked, what is RIM? Anyone that's interested in experiencing a RIM session as a standalone session or as an adjunct to other work you might be doing. I can give a couple of examples of recent clients actually, but to experience a RIM session and to learn about it, if they go to that landing page at change.intus.life, this one does not have the www. It's important because it won't work when you do that. And if you log in through there, if you sign in through there, and it's one of those places where you go put in your email, and it will take you to the information about RIM, and going in that way will give you an introductory half-price introductory session for your first session. So that's the better way than just going directly to my website. So that's the secret little page I'm sharing with you.
Test drive the car before you buy it. Yeah. And I like that it's .life.
Pretty cool, huh?
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That is pretty cool. Yeah, so, that is very cool.
Yeah, it's a standalone session. It isn't something where you have to try and then decide, do I want to buy a bunch of this or not? A lot of people will have an issue and deal with it in a single session. We don't sit down every week and go rehash this. You're done with it. You're done with that. Most of us have plenty of issues to work with. So even though this is a standalone piece of work, it may not be your only piece of work. But what we also find is that after a few individual pieces of work, that it seems the other big stories that we've been lugging around with us tend to lose their juice. They lose their charge. And the other things start to not have power over us anymore. because we're learning to release the stuck emotions that are driving our decisions and our behaviors. And this is how it really ties into coaching, that we know that our decisions and behaviors are driven by emotions, and yet we don't want to think about our emotions. We have work to do, and that is not sustainable, and it's not realistic. And we don't know what's driving it. We don't. It's such a hidden block. We call it hidden for a reason. We think that this is just who I am. This is, I had a client the other day. I think it was yesterday morning. I had a client who said, well, I've never been good at asking for help, and I've never been good at accepting help when it's offered. And so that's just how she is. She's always been that way. She just accepts that. And yet, when we went into the RIM session, it took only a few minutes for her to spontaneously go to a memory of being 7 years old and asking a trusted adult in her life, other than her parents, asking this trusted adult for help. And she didn't get the help she was asking for. She was desperate for help. She had other traumatic things going on in her life, and she thought she was doing the right thing, asking for help, and she didn't get it. In fact, she was made to feel it was her own fault and that she had done something wrong. So finding that stuck point where she first felt that it wasn't good to ask for help and that it wasn't available to her, that had never been worked on. And she had worked on all of her other traumatic events in her life and felt like she really had a solid handle on it. She'd done all her therapy, she'd done all her work, and life was as good as it was going to get. And it's been working pretty well for her, and had a very successful life, and didn't know that she could be a person who asked for help. And so when she dealt with that issue, she realized in the RIM session that asking for help and not getting it was probably worse than the trauma that she was asking for help with. And we never had, I don't even know what that was. We didn't go there. It's not necessary. We're not going in to dig up old stories and traumas. We're going to find the stuck emotion and we're going to release it, because it's the emotion that's driving today's decisions.
Yeah.
So we're very much staying in the present. It's just that what's present today is 50 years old sometimes.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And it holds you back.
Yeah.
I mean, those little things just hold you back from what you can just accomplish in life.
Absolutely.
Leanna says, congratulations. I have to hit you.
Thank you, Leanna.
And Amy's hitting you with, it sounds a bit more like hypnotherapy, except you're guiding people gently through talking, and that it's different than hypnotherapy, though.
Yeah. And the big difference is that we're not introducing any sort of manipulation. We're working with what's showing up for the client and from the client. So it's very, very client-led. And we are guiding the dialogue, and we're doing it. It's like walking behind you and shining the flashlight ahead over your shoulder for you in the direction you're already going.
That's a good analogy.
Right? And because you're very awake, actually you're hyper aware that you're always in charge. The client is always in charge and cannot do this wrong. And so, I'm very comfortable being wrong. So if I'm moving the flashlight a little bit in the wrong direction, you bring me back. And it gets its power from following what's organically showing up for the client. So it is very different from hypnotherapy in that way. And it's really started as a blend of somatic therapy and interactive guided imagery. But over the years, Dr. Deb's genius use of imagination has really created very much its own modality now, even though it has certain skills and tools within it that are similar to other modalities. Students that I know who are trained in NLP and EFT and EMDR and the whole alphabet soup will say to me that this is a unique recipe of skills. And when you add in the really powerful nuances of how some of these skills are used in a RIM way, it's very, very different than how those same skills get used in a different modality.
But you can use them in addition to, and Michelle. Michelle says, I always wondered where that name came from. Talking about your website. Yep.
Oh.
Now she can sleep at night, I'll tell you. Yes.
Good to know, Michelle. We don't want you tossing and turning.
Look at that. She's lost so much sleep over the years just wondering about that. That's great. Thank you, Michelle. Love it. And I want to just throw in there. So if anyone wants to get a hold of you and just ask you questions or that, best to just email you.
Sure. And I might even respond. No, I will.
You might be able.
I have a lot
of electronics are working and technology. He can respond back. Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a lot of traveling. I'll be assisting on Jack Canfield's Train the Trainer Live program. I'm on the assisting team this week. We start.
Oh my gosh!
Friday, I head to California, and we start. So we'll be busy for the next 8 days or so with that. And from there, we're off to Boston, teaching RIM in Boston in mid-May, and from there going to Seattle, doing some success principles training there, and I'm back home on June something, May 27th. So exactly a month.
Somewhere we're back here. I don't know. That's the cool thing about it. So with the RIM workshops, is that where someone goes to learn how to teach it? Is that to get certified? Is that just to experience it? What is that? What are those about?
Okay. I'm so glad you asked that. So that website you gave there, the change.intus.life, is for someone that wants to experience a RIM session or explore what that's like and what that's about. And for coaches or therapists, nurses, teachers, any helping professional could really learn how to do this and use it in their work. We teach the RIM method in a 4-day live in-person training. And so for instance, that's what we're doing in Boston in mid-May, and in Texas in early June, and in Florida in July, and Denmark, and on and on and on. That 4-day live training is supported by 3 months of coaching and follow-up and support, monthly calls to help you after you get done with the training, so that you feel really supported and that you're able to do this really well after you get home. And so that's for learning how to do RIM. It's the RIM Essentials, we call it, because in 4 days of live training, you can really learn all of the skills necessary to do full-on hour and a half sessions with clients as an adjunct to what you're already doing. So a coach, for instance, we have several coaches who make RIM sessions a part of their package. So if you're helping clients launch their book or helping clients launch a business, then you might call it and brand it something else. You might brand it your barrier breakthrough session to help clients. And they say, well, what is that? It's like, well, halfway through the program, we know that we get in our head, your dad's voice is still in there, or whatever it is, that we bump into our own emotional stuff. And we don't want that getting in the way of launching your business. So we have a special session set aside to just deal with that and to get results quickly and get that make sure that stays out of the way, and we deal with it. And they love that. And so it's part of the coaching package. And there's a particular coach that I'm thinking of who some of the people your followers might know, Xander Fryer in LA. He's an amazing entrepreneur himself, and he has a terrific coaching program for first-time entrepreneurs. And he calls the RIM session the barrier breakthrough session. And he says it's been absolutely paramount to the success of these clients. And then he refers them to a certified RIM facilitator to process that work and to help them with that. And it's so powerful when you just know that we've got to deal with this stuff, so let's just name it, put it as part of the package, it's expected there, and then the clients really get that out of the way and stay on task with the work that they're doing. And we're doing this with physicians specializing in obesity, entrepreneurs, authors, whatever the work is. It really doesn't matter if we understand that everyone has emotions, that emotions occur in the body. We need to do some mind-body work, not just think about it in our left brain, and that it's okay to work with these. And it can be simple. It can be done in in an hour and a half. We don't have to spend 10 years talking about it every day.
Yep. You don't have to go through all that therapy and all that. There's easier ways to just, because sometimes you just have that one barrier, but that one can just be the one that holds you back.
Yeah. And to be clear, this is not a replacement for therapy, and we're not anti-therapy by any stretch. In fact, we have therapists are coming and learning to use RIM as a technique to add to their toolbox, and the ones that have love it because they can see how effective it is. And my own clients, many have found that they've done years of therapy and they've done they feel they've gotten all the progress they're going to make, and they might be very happy with that progress, and then they find there's something else that's still stuck that they didn't clear, that didn't require, they never would have thought to process it, but it magically shows up and they deal with it. So so it's very powerful in that way. And it's a yes and. It fits very nicely as an adjunct to all of the other work we're doing, and it can also stand very much on its own as a standalone piece of work.
And right now, there's no online, right? There's just, you have to go to the workshops to learn this.
It is. I can't imagine doing this as a online training. It's such a part of your personal journey, and it's so experiential. So we will sit in a circle, typically in a living room, and when we travel and do these in other parts of the country, I always rent a nice big house somewhere and have a living room environment. So we have a small group of people, whether that's 5 people or 12 people, whatever it is. But we'll sit in a circle in the living room and we'll talk briefly about a skill, and you'll go practice that as a dyad and come back to the circle to unpack it, learn a new one, and we just keep doing that back and forth all day, so that by the end of putting together, you piece together a few of them and go do a mini session, and you see each step is so powerful, and it's learned so deeply and quickly by the unconscious. By experiential learning is so different than studying the theory forever and then going out and practicing it. So we're learning it by doing it and unpacking it, and because it's such body work, it's critical to be in person doing this. It's not the sort of thing that I could ever imagine would be as effective online. I mean, I suppose parts of it could be, and maybe one day we'll talk about, can it be 2 days of live and 2 days of some mixed. I'm such an in-person guy, I'm not interested in playing with that anyway. So I'll never say never.
Anything, it's better to be in person and experience these things than it is to, hide behind a monitor or something of that sort. Yeah,
like teaching heart hugs online, it's just not the same.
Right. And things break down, as we experienced at the beginning, and technology and all that good stuff. So so they can go on your website and they can find the different workshops that are out there. If they need to find you, the best way is, I'm going to try to get this up here as quickly as I'm saying it, because it's a good thing to experience. That is the best way to change.intus.life.
Yep. And and then there's the other site for coaches or helping professionals who want to find out what's involved in learning RIM to become a facilitator themselves, is Learn RIM. There we go.
Learn RIM.
There you go. Perfect.
There you go.
You're good.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to do, us guys, doing 2 things at one time is just not our forte, right?
No.
But we try to get along as well as we can. So, so tell us more. So you're and the locations right now, we have Boston that's coming up in, do you know dates? Am I putting you on the hot seat?
Well, it's not like naming siblings or anything like that, but let's say May 17th in Rockport, Mass, just north of Boston, and June 7th to the 10th in San Antonio, Texas, and June 21st. We haven't picked a location yet. We have a small group of coaches got together and decided they wanted to have their own training And so we're looking at somewhere probably Philadelphia, New Jersey area. But once they find the house that they're going to rent for it, we can invite others to join. July 12th, right here in my living room in Sarasota, and which is my favorite, most comfortable place because it's my house. But we also picked a great spot. So we bought this house for the setting that, by the way, appeared to me in a RIM session 6 months before we bought the house. We hadn't been house hunting yet. In February of 2015, I was doing a RIM session on creating my positive future. This really fits into the visualization work, like if you're going to create a vision board. And I described this L-shaped lanai with the caged-in pool, with the waterfall returning on the right-hand side of the pool, and the yard gently sloping away down toward an elongated waterway and an elevated golf tee on the other side. Now, I know that there are no hills in Florida, but yet I had this little sloping yard down to this waterway. So the day we arrived to go house hunting in July of 2015, there was one new house on the market that day, and it was in walking distance from the condo we were renting while we were house hunting. So we walked over here, and we're doing this through the windows and going around the backyard because the house was vacant, and we'll see if we want to get in here with the realtor the next day. So we walked around to the backyard, and here was this L-shaped lanai with the caged pool and the waterfall and its little sloping yard going down to this elongated waterway, and not just a fairway or a green, but the elevated golf tee that's just beyond the waterway. So we had okay, well, this is my house. Give me the keys. So we offered $25,000 more than the asking price, and said, give me my keys. And they said, well, 15 other people had offered also. And so it took us a couple of weeks to get it there, but they chose our winning bid on the day we were leaving, and so it was done. So now we can take our breaks from doing training here in our living room and sit and dangle our feet in the pool and watch the big birds on the water and love it. So the power of the imagination. Yes, Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, in Florida. Yeah, Amy. Yeah. That's amazing. So even RIM unveiled that.
Yeah. So, it isn't dealing with just old blocks and scary stuff.
Yeah.
It's just how we make a decision between, should I dump this guy and sell my house and move across the country or not, is a real client who used RIM to make that decision. And happily for her, it all worked out really well. She decided at the end of that hour that there was no question. She was so ruminating on these big decisions of this relationship that wasn't working, and a business that wasn't working, and a house that was too expensive, living in a city she didn't like, and she changed it all like that, and it was perfect. So we know inside, if we could go into our bodies and at that level what's right, our bodies know. And so in the RIM session for making decisions, or for letting go of the things we need to let go of, or finding what's really blocking us, or creating that positive future of what's there, I can't guarantee that you can figure out the house that's going to come on the market 6 months later, the day you arrive. And if I could, it's like I have already been asked. Sal asks me all the time, every time he hears me tell this story, he says, yeah, tell him how you forgot to visualize the house and why we have the kitchen we have. I did only envision the lanai and the golf course, so we bought that, and the house is just what came with it. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
Amy says, wow, super close. Yep, he's super close to you, Amy. There you go.
Well,
that could be come to the workshop. Sign up.
Yeah, so that's what I'm most excited about, is those workshops, because then now I get to live vicariously through my students, and they're each one out. I mean, I could go out and help, however many I could help a year, a few hundred clients a year. And if I could teach 100 people to do this, and they could each help a few hundred clients a year, our purpose is expanding in such powerful ways. And when I see the difference, I mean, I had a business owner here in Sarasota, 60 some years old, a wonderful woman, very very successful in her business and in her family. And she said, well, I should be happier. She's married to the same guy, great husband, all these years. She's healthy enough, happy enough, paid off the house, got 2 kids through college, and there should be something more, and even feels guilty for not being as happy as she should feel. Maybe she was feeling like I was when I was walking on the beach, not having to work. And so I said what I always say. I said, so close your eyes. And a few minutes later, she was 6 years old, walking home from school and getting bullied by a boy at this new school where she was just starting. And she was pushed on the sidewalk, and she fell and chipped a tooth, and there was some blood and some tears. And she said, oh, this can't be it. This is nothing I need to worry about. This was 60 years ago. And I said, so we just moved into the 6-year-old, and she turned around and looked out of her 6-year-old eyes at this boy, who she doesn't remember his name. We called him Tommy. Right. And she spoke to him what that was like for her. And what just started flowing was magic. And when she moved into Tommy and spoke back to her, there was such healing. Not that that part was important to her, because this wasn't a relationship she needed to heal in that way. But imagine if this was with a parent or a grandparent or someone important in your life. The healing was amazing. In this case, she realized that this was the extent of his romantic skills as a 6-year-old boy. We've been there. Having been a 6-year-old boy, we know that's pretty sophisticated. He really wanted her attention as the new girl in school, and this is what he had in his toolbox. Right. What was really important was when she got to move back into herself and speak her final piece to him. And she realized that she could stand up for herself. And she did in this RIM session. So when it was over, she's now a 60-something-year-old woman who feels that she's always had a voice and she's always been able to stand up for herself. And an hour earlier, she was a woman who had done fine in life, but she's never had a voice of her own, and she felt like she never stands up to herself. She doesn't stand up for what she wants in her family and in her work, and she owns her business and really doesn't stand up to her employees or her vendors or her customers when she doesn't get what she wants. And it's time to do that for her. And so the first sign was the next day. She told me that she walked into her closet and had nothing to wear. Everything she owned, everything she buys was for a role she played in her life, not for her. Everything was for being a mother or being a business owner or being a wife, not being her. So that's powerful. And you think of the business decisions that were not made because she doesn't ask for what she wants.
Right.
Think of the family decisions that in her own personal sense of worth as to become a person who stands up for themselves and has a voice, and not just to know this isn't an intellectual idea that I know I should think that way. I know I really need to do that, because you get that from other modalities. This was feeling in the body. She really believes she is a person who has always done that, which is very different than having to use your willpower to stand up for yourself. It's now easy to stand up for herself. And she knows intellectually that this was a pretend event, and yet it feels so real. The unconscious doesn't know the difference between the well-imagined event and the real event. It's why fear works. Fear is something we've imagined that hasn't even happened, and you feel it in your body. We get sick over it, right?
Right.
That's Dr. Deb's genius, is to use that power of imagination. It's just as powerful for creating what you do want and for letting go of what you want to let go of, by using the power of imagination to make that real to your unconscious. And now you feel like you've really found the healing with the parent or the grandparent, or with someone who's been abusive or neglectful, or that boy in the lunch line that called you ugly, or that ex-spouse that it's finally time to really, really let go of the last pieces of emotion attached to that. All real stories that we can let go of that, and the other party doesn't have to be alive or accessible or willing. It's not necessary. You can do this all on our own, and it doesn't have to be challenging or painful.
Right. And it's amazing how you, like in that woman's case, it's like, oh, that wasn't important. You just negate it. You just go, well, that wasn't important. That really wasn't, but it was something that was.
Well, yeah. See, it's what's important. is the emotion that got stuck.
Yeah.
Still there. And that's the moment, the pivotal moment where she made a decision about how the world worked and how she related to it. And now for the next 55 or 60 years, it's like going to a 6-year-old girl for advice in your relationships and in your work.
Yvette wants to know, but does it last?
Yes.
Simple and to the point.
Thanks for asking.
Yes.
Well, because it's a memory. Now we have this new memory, and just like you remember the old original memory, we now remember the new emotional memory. And the key word is emotional, because what happens is when we attach emotion to something, we remember it. We don't remember things that might have been really important in our lives, big events, but if there was an emotion attached to it, we don't remember it. We remember the events that have emotion attached to it. So part of what we teach our coaches to do is to find the emotion associated with the new work that's being done. And we use the imagination to make that a physical thing in the body. And when you can feel and you know the color and the texture and the feeling of that emotion, of the new emotion in your body, and we really teach how to anchor that in the body so that stays with you. And when you have that new emotion, for me, my first RIM session with Dr. Deb, I thought I wasn't doing visualization very well again. I was still arguing with that, thinking, I'm not good at this. And I'm sensing in my body, and I said, I got nothing. Nothing's calling my attention, nothing's there. And she said, so notice the nothing, and where's the nothing? And I said, well, it's in my stomach. And next thing I know, I'm looking at I'm standing by a pond as a child, and I'm looking at my biological parents on one side of the pond and my adopted parents on the other side of the pond. And somehow, through the magic of an hour, I felt in my body the unconditional love of my biological mother, who I have no memory of. And I realized that I never felt unconditional love from my adopted parents, because they would give me a list of conditions regularly and threaten to send me back to the junkyard, and say things like, I'll send you back to the junkyard where you belong, or whatever would upset them. And what a gift all of this has become. When I realized, what was painful to realize was that until that RIM session, I had never had the experience of unconditional love. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that I didn't know what it was. But it was just a concept, and it suddenly applies to me because of that feeling in the RIM session. That's not an emotion one forgets.
Right.
That's not an experience one forgets. So yes, it's lasting. That's the long.
You might bury it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You might bury it. That emotion. You might bury that incident that happened. It might be lodged somewhere in there and blocking you from experiencing that emotion.
Absolutely. Yeah. The old memories the old emotions that are still driving our decisions and behaviors, we think they're not, because they're suppressed or forgotten.
Right.
But the subconscious knows if it needs to be dealt with, so we don't dig it up for the sake of digging it up. But we will find it, not go through all your old stories, but we'll find the stuck emotion and work through it and make something new.
Yeah.
So, I just love it. So come play with me, go online, connect with us, and let's explore it. I really just realized the time, and I realized I'm sitting in the dark.
It's like doesn't go by fast. It just does. It's just awesome. Yvette says the level of belief that works determines the effectiveness of it, or is there a number of sessions? Yvette, you came late to the party. No, there's not a number of sessions.
Yeah, single session is a single piece of work. I don't think I've ever done more than 5 or 6 sessions with a single client that worked through huge, major issues, who had spent decades in therapy. And you can do a single session, though, and it has its own value. You don't have to go on to the next one, but most people find that a few sessions will really dramatically change their life. And what was her other question? Oh, no, you don't. Your belief in it has nothing to do with whether it works.
No.
Yeah, the most cynical people, myself included, when I started this, so resistant and almost argumentative with it. No, it's it's how our organic emotional operating system works, whether we believe in it or not. We have emotions.
Yeah.
We know, and this isn't the woo-woo imaginary friend side of what we do. The scientists don't argue anymore about whether emotions occur in the body. Emotions are the body's response to a stimulus, and by tying that together, so we're working with how it actually occurs in our body and finding that emotion and working with it, so that my clients that are skeptical still get the same benefit from it.
Yvette says, sure, I got issues.
Kwame, we'll talk.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and it's great. We can laugh about it. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go through. Let me hit up all these as we come to a close here. If all in all, if they just go to the main website, they can kind of go off that way. So intus.life. Tell them once again what intus means.
Within.
And
I said
life.
It's the only Latin word I know, so don't be impressed.
There you go. intus.life is the main site. And here, you saw me put it up there once before, but this might be the one you want to look for, being a coach. She's in trainer, being a coach. Yeah. So learnrim.intus.life.
And for coaches, and Yvette, if you go there, if you register there, I'm going to invite you to a free group RIM experience. It's not a webinar. We don't teach you anything. It's not a sales pitch. I don't sell you anything. It's just a actual group RIM experience as opposed to an individual. And so we'll invite you to one of those. I have been doing 2 or 3 a week. If I'm at home, if I'm traveling, I don't. So so we'll be doing those in between trainings and travel in the next
and that's in person?
Weeks. No, it's over the phone.
It's over the phone.
A free conference call, and you just dial in, close your eyes, and spend an hour with us and go through the whole experience.
Cool. But if you want to experience a half off, this is what you do. change.intus.life.
Yep.
So change.intus.life. That's what you want to do.
Notice there's no www. If you put in the W's, it doesn't work.
Yeah, don't worry about the W's. No W's. Michelle, yep, you'll have to catch the replay. It will be up. I will have the full edited version up by tomorrow or the next day. So on that one, and then put the site up again. Julie wants the site up again. Oh my gosh!
Oh, come on, pay attention.
They're all commanding me, and it's on delay, so she might have caught this. But you can always go back to the replay, and you can fast forward. Then, I want to just blend out Dave. Let's just hear Michael. That's usually how it goes. We don't want to hear Dave anymore. But there's the main site. So www.intus.life. And then you can spread out from there. But if you want to get the deals, go back and watch the replay and get those. There you go. And that says, wow, and thanks. Love it, Yvette. And Julie's back again. Cool, thank you. And I got to say this. We'll leave it at that. Thank you. This has been a great hour.
It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, anytime. But you're going to be busy for the rest of the summer, so it won't happen until later probably for you. You'll be resting in between. And hang on, and then we'll say goodbye to everybody else, and for everyone watching out there and all the groups and that have shared us along the way. Thanks for coming on board. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the comments, and we'll be back here another time. I'm not back here till 2 weeks from now, when we have another guest along the way, but you never know. But Michael, hang on, and we'll chit chat. But
thanks everybody.
Yeah,
bye.
Good night.